So I am the CEO of Digital Media Solutions. I have done Race Across America twice before, in 2012 and 2013. I thought it would be an incredible team building experience for certain members of the executive team of Digital Media Solutions to be out on an 8-man team doing Race Across America. And then I went out to some friends, family, and colleagues and put together an 8-man team to go out and compete again in 2016's Race Across America.
Now that I have children, I think very seriously about the type of qualities and characteristics that go into doing this type of event and the reasons behind it. We know we've got some people who've dealt with very serious personal issues like fighting cancer and building companies, at times where they were working out of garages, where they didn't take a salary because they wanted to make sure that their employees got the salary. My husband in particular is particularly humble and doesn't really talk about his personal beliefs. And that's because he saw what each of these guys gave out there. These stories are parallel amongst all of the men that I know who participated in this event. These guys are not professional cyclists. These guys have jobs, they have families, they have kids, they're changing diapers at night. And it's the type of qualities that I hope to raise my children with, which are qualities of grit and determination and integrity, and that's what got these guys across the finish line.
We are supporting St. Jude's Children's Hospital, which is a charity that I've been supporting for a number of years now. St. Jude's Children's Hospital is a research hospital which is on the forefront of fighting childhood cancer. They do not take money from any of the patients or the patients' families that they help. Over the last couple of years, we've raised almost $100,000 for the Children's Hospital. On this particular event, we raised almost $50,000 thus far.
I was approached by my good friend Luke, who's also on the team, and told me that another good friend, Joe Marinucci, was putting together a team to race across America, and the goal was to be the fastest team across the line, and that we would be raising money for St. Jude's Hospital, and asked if I wanted to be part of the master plan. And I love riding and I love competing and racing, so the answer was absolutely yes.
It's TeamDMS. Joe Marinucci is my CEO, and early on when I first met him, he was telling me about all his crazy adventures and all the things that he does, and RAAM was one of the events that he's participated in. He's done RAAM a couple of times and said he was going to do it again. And I told him I bike a lot and I really enjoy it. I didn't realize the difference of level of how much I was biking versus how much he was biking. But he said, you should come do it with us. We're going to get a bunch of guys from RAAM and we'll go, or from DMS, and we'll go do it. And it sounded like the adventure of a lifetime. And so I said, yeah, count me in, a little naively, not knowing again what was coming.
You know what, I've known Joe for a while. We're on the same triathlon team, and I met him around 18 months ago. We caught up about 18 months ago at a race down in South Beach, and I just won one of the triathlons down there, and he approached me after the race. He goes, you know what would be a great idea? Having you on my team. And I'm like, what team is that, Joe? And he's like, I've done this race twice. I think you'd be an asset. Let me send you some details.
I have worked with Race Across America 4 times now. 2012, Joe Marinucci was in our first ever CEO challenge, 8 random CEOs on the team. We came 4th. 2013, again, it was 8 random CEOs on the team and we came 2nd. 2014, we ran a team for a company or a charity called the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund, and we won. And then this year, 2016, once again, we had the privilege of entering a full team, 8-man team into Race Across America.
When he first told me, it was late last year, and it had been quite a year. Andrew and I, supporting him, had just gone through 6 months of chemo after he'd had surgery for late-stage colon cancer. and it had been quite a whirlwind. He had always been an athlete, a coach, somebody who lived a healthy lifestyle, and this was a devastating turn of events for him, and even for me and everyone who knew him. We were all so devastated. And so all of 2015 we spent getting him back to recovery. And I can tell you that every day after chemo, he would put himself on that bicycle, CompuTraining, to try and just get the blood moving, get the chemicals out of his system as fast as possible so he could feel better. And he told me shortly after the World Championship for triathlon, and when he told me that, my first response is, do it. You have to. There's nothing that you love more than being on the road and cycling, and I knew that this was something that he was going to love.
My mom on one end of the spectrum, which was really excited and just excited for the challenge that was going to lie ahead, and seeing stuff I've done in the past that this kind of fits the mold of stuff I'd be interested in, would love to do. And then with my wife, and at the time we had our 5.5-year-old daughter, and we're expecting another baby in the spring, was basically extremely supportive, but couldn't you have picked a better time to be training and like sacrificing?
And then my brother, he almost wanted to be part of the team. He loved it. He was throughout the race, like, getting in touch with us, because when we were riding at 1 a.m, he'd be on the cell phone in Melbourne, Australia at 3 p.m. saying, this is where we are, this is the data, this is what we need to do. So yeah, everyone had great reactions, but overall very positive.
My wife and I have 2 small kids. Our son Bodie is almost 5 now, and our daughter Charlie is just over a year old. So there's a lot of work involved with raising those 2 youngsters. And my wife does a lot as it is, and for me to go ride a bike for a week across the country is, quite honestly, more of a vacation than anything else with 2 small kids like that. So, my wife was not ecstatic about it, but she's extremely supportive of these types of things, and she knows that it was very important from a team building perspective. With the group of guys that we put together, we're raising money for a charitable cause, and we're raising brand awareness for the company at the same time. So it was a worthwhile endeavor. So she supported it, but she took on the brunt of the work while I was gone.
Hard, pain, a lot of early mornings, getting up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to get out and train for the past 8 or 10 months. I can't remember how long it's been. So I would try to get up before my family got up, get on the trainer and ride for a few hours before work and before they woke up. So a lot of going to bed early, a lot of getting up early, and a lot of pain on the trainer.
We've had a lot of experienced cyclists on the team, and while I've been an athlete over the years, rowing for 12 years, training, working out, running, etc., I only picked up cycling this past fall. So this past fall, most of the members of the team, we went down to South Carolina to the George Hincapie cycling camp. I went down with the squad, and first day we were going out to go biking, and Joe brought my shoes. He got me a helmet so I would be ready. And my first time clipping in was with George Hincapie, former Tour de France racer on the US Postal team with Lance Armstrong, multiple Olympics, and I'm clipping into a bike for the first time and going for my first 50-mile ride. And I did that day 1, day 2, again on day 3. So I pretty much got thrown right into the fire, and figured out there was a new sport that I was going to become, pretty addicted to, and that's really where it started for me.
Training for the race was a juggling match. It was tough to find the time between family and work, but it was fun. It was a different kind of training for me. I was focusing on different elements of training with interval training and sprint training and things like that I don't usually do. So it was different for me, so it was fun.
Well, I think really for 2 or 3 months now, I've just been gearing up the crew, finding the best crew people that I possibly could. The fellow that headed up the other 4-man division is a guy named Andres Mavis, and he really helped find some amazing people. Then I had to get them kind of indoctrinated into the system. We had a bunch of crew chief meetings. And then with Joe and his 8-man team, we had a training camp with George Hincapie last fall. George gave us some great tips on cycling, and we got to see who were the strong climbers and great descenders. That really helped.
Having done the race 2 previous times in 2012 and 2013, I knew that this was a serious commitment. I knew that there would be benefits to having the group of guys that would be doing the race train together as a team on at least 2 or 3 occasions. So the way that I went about planning my training regimen was around training camps for the team. And a couple of weeks ago, actually 2 weeks out from the actual race start, we did a 12-hour, 250-mile RAAM simulation event in Boulder, Colorado, which was extremely helpful for the team in getting accustomed to how RAAM would actually go down on the road.
I was looking forward most to the finish. I had no idea what to expect at the finish. I thought just the achievement of going 3,000 miles in and of itself was going to be the thing I was going to be most excited about. Just finishing that kind of an epic distance in as fast as time as we could.
So I'd never driven across the country by car. So I was like, what better way to see it than going, as it turned out, 22 miles an hour average speed on a bike and getting to see all the sights. Riding in the day, riding at night, going through Colorado. There's some pretty epic scenery as you're coming across. Fortunately, Luke on our team brought a fantastic camera, so we've captured a lot of these pictures that are going to be, make these experiences really memorable for all the guys on the team.
Really, the whole time, you're pushing through the pain and riding just as fast as you possibly can, and you don't have time to stop and look. In fact, there was one moment where I did stop to look. I went to go take a picture. There was this, I think they called it the strawberry moon. I stopped to take a picture and the rider flew by while I was taking the picture. So that was my one big mess up, and I vowed I was going to stop.
Having done it before, I was really excited about like the Monument Valley area. Love that area. I love the sunsets and the sunrises when you're coming through the different areas. You'll be in the middle of the night. And you can't really see a lot of stuff that you're going through, so you don't get to experience the beauty of the landscape. But then the sun starts to come up, and then you can see where you're at, and you can see, all of a sudden you're in like a different world, a different territory, and it's just kind of fun to see, like, every day you're just experiencing something new.
So I was really looking forward to the up and downs of the Colorado Rockies. I really thought that was going to be the highlight, and it kind of was. It was beautiful, it was scenic, we went through in the daylight, so we were able to take it in.
And we certainly had our fair share of that during Race Across America 2016.
And then, of course, the finish line was probably the biggest highlight.
Fortunately, we had a great massage therapist that was working on all the athletes before and after all the rides and shifts. So that really helped keep me alive, especially going into the very last day that I rode. I ended up feeling significantly better.
We were riding at about 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm not a very big guy. I only weigh about 150 pounds, and I was riding in the dark with about a 30-40 mile an hour crosswind, lightning in the distance, and I was genuinely scared. If I'd come off, I would have been not in good shape. So that was kind of a hard physical and mental challenge.
The most difficult part of the race for me, and I think also for the team, for the 4-man team that we were on, was right about the middle of the country. We're coming through Illinois. It was a shift we came on at 1 in the morning. We had about, I think, maybe 8-9 hours off before the last shift we were on. It was our 4th shift or 5th shift of the race, so you're pretty fatigued by that point. Now you're going to be racing at night in areas that you're not familiar with. And then to compound that even further, there was a huge storm blowing in. So I actually was in bed. I woke up to text messages from my family saying, hey, hope you're not in the Illinois area because there's tornado watch tonight. And on the bus, you don't really know where you are when you wake up, because when you fell asleep, you were in a different state. So I just write back, no, I'm okay, I'm sleeping. Well, got up, I'm on my bike at 1 in the morning, and we're going through Illinois, and we're watching on the Doppler the tornado watch. So we were riding through rain, gusting winds, hail, lightning, which is lighting up the whole sky, and we're peeling around streets at 20+ miles an hour, doing downhill, taking turns, and figuring our way through the race, because the course doesn't change as you go through it. So that was exciting, but extremely challenging.
After 3 nights of maybe 2 hours sleep a day, I was starting to lose it a little bit. But luckily, everything kind of switches around. It always happens around Missouri or so, end of Kansas. My 4-man team starts to go to daylight, and the other 4-man team goes to nighttime, and then I felt much, much better after that.
In Arizona, we were experiencing record-breaking heat in the desert. There was a new segment of the course, which in the actual race book was entitled the Arizona Century. It was 100 miles, 10,000 feet of climbing, scorching temperatures of 110 to 120 degrees. No end in sight in terms of, when you were going to get a break. That was a rough day for everybody, for the crew, for the racers. It was a hard day just because of the physical amount of effort that you had to put in out there on the bike and the heat that you were encountering while producing that effort.
The camaraderie among the guys on the team was started nearly a year ago with the first training camp. Each successive training camp that you come to, it's high fives and hugs as you're seeing these guys again and ready to ride with them. Showing up for the final event. I don't know, I think I'm getting emotional now because thinking of the finish line and things, but showing up for the event and you see all these guys again, you're ready to ride together, and it's an amazing camaraderie. You're not in with all 8 guys the whole time. We're divided up into 2 teams of 4. So 4 of the guys, Joe, Fernando, David Bentley, and Luke, were not in my same van. And so you don't see them, you don't see the other team very much. You see them at the transition after you were sleeping, and you give everybody high fives and hugs and you send them to bed, and then you go out and kill it on the road while they're gone. But especially with your van, your 4 guys, these are guys that you sweat with and may even bleed with, and you are definitely in it with this little team of this little brotherhood.
Not only we had the 4 riders, you had the instrumental navigators, drivers, mechanics, and that was key to really executing on your race. So the camaraderie was great. It was testy at times, it was heated at times. Of course it is, you're in such close quarters, but overall it was fantastic. The riders it was really the right mix, which was fantastic.
There was amazing camaraderie amongst the riders on this year's team. Everybody was willing to go deep when it mattered most. Everybody certainly spent some time in the dark place. Everybody pushed it to the limit. During the last 36 hours of this event, we had a clock that we were racing against, and every one of the 8 men on this team did what they had to do to bring it to the line and beat that clock. It was an amazing, amazing thing to watch.
TeamDMS crew is awesome. Everyone brought different skills, and that's exactly what you want in a crew and in a team for that matter. Just the different dynamics of what the team brought, or the crew brought to the event was amazing, and it fit together really beautifully.
The crew, they were amazing. They kept the whole thing running like the cliche, the well-oiled machine. We had, I don't know how many guys it is, 8 guys, 10 guys supporting us. And they were as excited as we were. And they made us food, they got our bikes ready, they massaged our legs to keep them moving, they woke us up, they checked, make sure we were in bed. They were just amazing. And when we had mechanical problems, they were there to fix them. They were there with emotional support. Everyone from Max in the bus, screaming out the window every time he passed us for 3,000 miles. And if you know Max, he's got a really big personality and a big voice. It was great. I mean, we couldn't have done it without him.
And frankly, us coming across the country first in the 8-man and the fastest team across would not have been possible without the attentiveness of the crew to really every need of all the racers.
Our experiences with the other teams during this year's race were somewhat limited. We didn't encounter a lot of teams on the road. We got out to a pretty fast start. The only team that we actually had any interaction with while on the road was the team that we actually beat to win the race. That would be Team Working Nation, Team 401. They are a professional racing team, and they were producing, or have now produced, a documentary about what it supposedly takes to win the race, which they did not win this year. But they went out of the box very, very fast, being professional riders and having a very specific reason to be out on the course. They were very focused from the start. For us, we kind of, I wouldn't say took it easy, but we did not go out with the same level of intensity that they did, and they clearly opened up a gap on us, which we closed. And once we closed that gap, we started to have some interaction with them, seeing their team vehicles. We actually interacted with their media crew at one point in, I believe it was Ohio. And it was, I wouldn't say, it wasn't like a combative meeting, but they clearly knew that we were chasing them, and they were somewhat intrigued by who we were, being that those 4 men were professional cyclists and we're an 8-man team of amateurs.
Finding out we were the fastest team to cross the line and had the fastest time was unbelievable. I mean, we hit our goal. That was our goal from day one.
Yeah, I kind of tear up thinking about it. We worked so hard to, during the race, I made a lot of, even in that 4-week period, I made a lot of sacrifices. I ditched my Ironman. I completely changed my life to train for this thing. The intensity of the last day, it was 15 hours of full-on racing, which came down to 3 or 4 minutes. And when those guys came across the line and we knew that we had set the fastest time, a lot of that stress and the anxiety and the pressure and the stuff that goes through your head, it kind of just all washes out of you, and it's an amazing sense of relief and satisfaction.
When we found out, we were all standing at the finish line, and Andrew and Luke were pounding home. I knew, we were going to be there within a few minutes. We were going to be in the lead. I cried a little bit. I've never been a champion in any sport in my entire life, and I've always been an athlete since the time I can remember. But I've never been on a championship team, and this was my first championship moment. I cried, and I was super happy, and I looked at the expressions and the faces of everybody else on the team that was celebrating and running down to the finish line to hug Andrew and Luke as they crossed. I mean, it was an amazing feeling.
So when we started talking about competing in RAAM almost a year ago, we set out our team goal was going to be fastest 8-man team and fastest team across the country. So you start thinking about that, then you have to start believing it. You got to start believing it in order to make it happen. And you could see the momentum within the team. We did cycling camps leading up to the event. Then we're in close quarters for a week, watching the tracker every single day, watching the minutes, how we're moving across the country. And you could get that sense of energy and momentum building within the team. And everybody were believers before we started the event. And then throughout the event, everybody just saw it happening.
It wasn't an announcement at the very end. It was calculated. We knew how fast exactly to the minute we needed to be to win, because we've been watching the scoreboard every night as we go. We've been watching how much have we gained on other teams, it becomes a little bit obsessive, even sitting in the car and you're hitting refresh. Why won't this update? You know, watching the tracker as you go and knowing exactly how many miles are you behind, and each time station, how many minutes are you behind the leader. And so we were making every effort and strategizing in every way that we can to beat that time.
It was sensational, man. You know, we fought for that hard. We went through, it was so neck and neck for the last, we were pretty far behind the front team coming into like Colorado. They had a pretty good, like an hour gain on us. And so we sat and whittled that down every single day until we got ahead of them. And then it was a neck and neck battle until the end. And so to be able to take it by just minutes was exhilarating.
And as a team, we came together, we worked together, we sacrificed together, and it was just, after that many days, it was phenomenal to achieve the fastest time of all teams across the line. And the spirit at that moment when I crossed the line, it was something that I won't forget. It was a very rewarding and memorable experience.
That was intense. That was probably the most intense RAAM experience I've ever had. It was Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals.
With 15 miles to go, we knew, based on the race clock, that it was going to be very, very, very close. And everybody was both physically exhausted and pretty much mentally exhausted as well from willing themselves to do things that their bodies didn't want to do for this amount of time. Luke and Andrew went out on the road and they cycled the most amazing 15-minute team time trial that I've ever seen any two people do. I mean, it was unbelievable, and I was literally tearing when they came to the line because we knew they had beat the clock. It was amazing.
When we were standing there at the finish line, waiting for Andrew and Luke to come in, and knowing, based on their trajectory and based on the time we needed to beat, that it was happening. We were gonna beat it. This is real. I was just so excited.
I was super excited to be here. We have 6 children, and so this was a huge deal for me to support my husband in this event. Because not only the time away from our family during the training, but also the time of exhaustion from doing the workouts that, you know, led up to this point. And so I was very excited to be here at the finish line.
Well, at the finish line, I'd gotten there, I calculated out, because we've been obsessively looking at the website, the leaderboard, and then the live tracking all hours of the day, middle of the night. We were always checking, refreshing, seeing where they are. And I knew that it was a very, very close race with the other team. There were times in the middle of the night I would check and they had gotten ahead, and I couldn't believe it. It was fantastic. And then other moments they had fallen behind. So I knew how close it was. And I knew that Drew and a few of the others were taking an extra shift. They got up at 3 a.m. on Friday morning to start again, full-on Hammerfest to the finish, so that they could catch that team. I know what they are capable of, and these are strong guys, and I'm really proud of them. So I knew that they could do it.
I mean, this has been an incredible experience. I met a lot of people for the first time during this the actual race, and then several of the guys through the training camps that were the actual riders for the team, and just have made some pretty awesome new friendships and a brotherhood in this last week of racing that made some memories that are going to last me a lifetime. I couldn't be any more thankful to Joe and DMS for bringing me on board and giving me the opportunity to be a part of this experience, and it's something I'll definitely never forget, and maybe at some point in time do something like this again with these same guys. I would love to be a part of it. I couldn't be happier with the guys I raced with and the guys who crewed for us. it really, it couldn't have been any better.
Firstly, I'd like to thank DMS. This is an enormous undertaking, financially, in terms of the pure logistics. You know, it's not just money. It's time, it's effort, it's focus. I feel like I've been an amazing beneficiary of you know, that investment on all those fronts, and you know, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity that has kind of fallen in my lap, and I just can't thank people enough for, you know, I can't believe that I was riding across Arizona with a bus like that, with a team like this, winning by a matter of minutes, and it's all down to the generosity of guys like Joe and Fernando. I never realized the intensity of a race like this. I thought, you know, I'd go and do I'll ride and that's going to be hard, and then you go and sit in the bus for an hour and, you know, chill out and maybe have a snooze and then go out and have another ride. But the intensity is incredible. And the intensity on the crew is actually more or greater than sometimes the intensity on the riders, because the riders get to sit on the bus and that's fine. The crew needs to get out every 15 minutes and do stuff for 6 days with 3 hours sleep. That's intense, and they held it together brilliantly, and you know, I can't thank those guys enough.
We set a goal and we achieved our goal. We won the 8-man, we won the fastest time across the country. We had a fantastic crew. I personally made a bunch of new friendships with guys on the team that I didn't know quite as well before we started. And the support from our family and friends has been truly, you know, necessary and appreciative in order to allow us to make it happen with the sacrifices that we've all made as riders to be able to train properly and give it our all.
We've accomplished a lot riding across the country, 12 states, 3,000 miles, 170,000 feet of elevation. It's a lot that we've put out for this race. And bigger than anything I've ever participated in. It's hard for the riders, but it's especially hard for the crew, and I think especially hard on our families. And it takes a huge sacrifice for everybody at home to make this a possibility. You know, for me, I have a wife and 4 kids that are at home, and they're ready for me. But we're super grateful, all of us, for all the sacrifices that the families make to send us out here and make this dream come true for us.
The overall experience as a whole, the camaraderie of the team, the guys together, it was an amazing experience. I think that's what everybody needs to pull from it and take from it, is that really, you know, we had guys come together and work together that haven't necessarily done this big of a thing, and we pulled out a victory, and it was awesome. So that's the way I look at it.
I just want to thank the DMS crew. I want to thank DMS Solutions in general. I want to thank Joe for an incredible journey over the last 18 months. A very generous individual, a very high energy individual. I was very fortunate to have him on my 4-man crew, and the friendships that we've made along the way with everybody through, you know, the crew, the cyclists, the DMS family has been phenomenal. So once again, thank you, Joe. Thank you, DMS, for putting on this very generous, life-changing experience. Thank you.
I just said it was a real pleasure to get to know these guys, to spend so much time with them. They're amazing individuals. They rode their hearts out. Everybody would come back after their ride and they would be slumped over their handlebars, gasping for air every single pull. There was no slacking going on. They really, really wanted to win, and they put everything they had into winning. So it was a real privilege and honor to be able to crew with them and race across America.
Do it! Do it! Go, 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 go! Go, 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 go! Yeah! Yeah!